So before we jump into our questions, I want to get the panel introduced because we have some different people on stage than you've seen talking so far, but I think you guys all know the drill. So if we will slowly quiet down, we will allow the panelists to introduce themselves. Okay, great. So I'm going to let you take it away after I've steamrolled over everybody. If you'd like to introduce yourself and especially talk a little bit about why you're here on the panel today, that would be fantastic. Exactly.
Hi, I'm Christina. I am the SVP Marketing and Sales for Mock Partner. And I've been attending quite a lot of these, not necessarily panels, but similar discussions.
Is your mic?
Oops. Okay. Sorry about that. And one of the reasons why we are here is yeah. Okay. So one of the reasons that we tend to keep on participating is because we actually touch on all the different subjects that have been discussed today. Because we tend to work with advertisers that sorry, it's okay now? That do everything from Facebook to retargeting to looking for acquisition for games. So we work with all of these different sources of traffic, so we try to present a certain type of performance to the partners that we work with and for.
Wonderful. Can you all hear me okay? Fantastic. My name is Chris Hannage. I'm the European General Manager for AppFlood. AppFlood is a gorgeous ad network which is incredibly transparent with fantastic payouts, and that's all I really want to say now. Over to you.
Chris, you're always like, you know how to put it. So hi everybody, I'm Karen Zemmer from AppsFire. AppsFire is a 360 growth engine for app developers. Basically, we cover all the angles from user acquisition, discovery, monetization, and engagement. We're here, I think, first of all, we can share with you some of the experience that we have as an app, AppsFire, with over 10 million downloads and how we got there, and then how we took the practices that helped us grow and we implemented it into tools that we currently give to developers, basically for free, for monetization, for engagement, like I said before, and happy to share all this experience with you.
My name is Ville Heijari. I'm the European General Manager for Playhaven, and Playhaven is a business engine for mobile developers. So basically, where you would create your game engine to be able to focus on creativity and game design, game development, or use a third-party engine like Unity, we provide a business engine which you can then plug in to cover the end-to-end cycle of acquisition, engagement, retention, monetization.
Great. Okay. So you guys are actually ready. I would love to get some people up from the audience to start asking some questions, but otherwise I have some prepared. But can I get any brave souls up here to go first? Let's see. Scanning, no one yet? All right, so, oh, there we go. Great, yes, okay. What do we have?
My name is Sven Haferkamp. I'm from Eventim, and my question is, how can I figure out the reason why app users uninstall our app? Because we have a lot of them.
This one is going to be a great one for our panel. So,
Why do they uninstall?
Exactly. After the fabulous advertisements of how we can get people to install the apps, the question is, how do we figure out why people are uninstalling, and are you guys working at that?
Yeah, I can try and take that. I mean, I think one of the themes that's been really common throughout everything this morning has been build really, really good stuff. And I'm not for a second saying that's not the case, but I think that's where one has to start. The second thing, which is also true, as the industry grows up, and we are growing up, is just measure, and measure again. And I think that's the other thing to add. So what I would be looking to do would be to try and work out when people are uninstalling. You know, is there a particular event? Is there a particular bottleneck? Is it perhaps when you're asking people for money? Is there a particular user experience or something that means that people are going, actually, this isn't for me? So really just trying to identify whether or not there's a something there that's causing it. I think that's probably my initial thoughts.
Yeah, so to add to that, can't really stress enough the importance of quality and the first-time user experience. Anything from 60 to 85% of the people who download the apps won't launch them a second time. So it's absolutely crucial to capture their emotion on that first use.
Another thing that we should be looking at is what are you telling your users in the first place to make them install your
That's a good point,
app.
yeah.
So it's, what is the message that drives them to installing the app, and then what happens afterwards, and when exactly are they uninstalling it?
Yeah, and probably don't forget to all the time improve your app. Don't just say, okay, I got whatever, 1 million users. You need to constantly improve, bring additional features, and then be in communication with your users. So create a dialogue with them, remind them that you are there, that actually there's a person behind it, it's not just a company, and collect the feedback and make them engaged and active.
So, anybody else for the next question? I mean, I think this is pretty interesting where we're talking about how do we actually engage, and keep going and look at users from the first moment they enter to say, okay, why did you leave even if you abandoned me?
Hello, Miglena Delcevo from Travian Games. We was talking about user acquisition costs and eCPA. What exactly or after how many months I can expect positive return on investment? Because, for example, for the browser, we develop browser games, and we define fixed CPA, and we have prediction return on investment, for example, for 6 months for some of our products, and we don't have any experience about return on investment for mobile marketing products. Could you recommend me, for example, when we should stop investing money? For example, if I buy a user for $2, how many months I should, after how many months I can expect that this user spent money into the game and a positive return on investment?
Yeah, so this is a pretty interesting question. I think we're asking ourselves, okay, we know that we should be calculating some kind of lifetime value for the customer in order to determine the ROI and actually price out the ads we're spending, but how does that change over time, and when do I say stop? When do I say, okay, if it's lifetime value, do we wait until they die to make a change? Probably not. So how do we actually react to that?
I think there's, sorry, were you going to?
No, it's not helpful if people carrying the plate. I think that's the main
The voice they're speaking to us.
Okay.
yeah, just know what the plate.
Are these free-to-play games?
Yeah,
Okay.
just no plate, really.
I mean, I think there are a whole heap of studies that have been done in terms of, the different breakdowns of players in free-to-play and whether or not people are grinding away and when people actually become paying users, et cetera, et cetera. I think the really concise and totally knowledgeable answer to your question is we don't know. And the only people that can know are yourselves. And I think one of the comments from one of the presentations this morning, which was start small and test, is really one of the most important things. Nobody knows apart from you because nobody has the data. So I would be looking to try and do a test, get some insight from the data that you get back. Anything more than 6 months is probably pushing it and being quite optimistic. We've seen a number of very large public companies come to huge problems because they've spent a lot of money based on lifetime values of users that just weren't true. So I wouldn't be looking to extend it very far into the future and just test and get a figure from your own data.
And if you're coming from the online space, from the browser gaming space already, you have the existing brand, you have the users, you have the behavior patterns from there. Not all, but some of it will translate into mobile as well. I would argue that in mobile you will have a lower attention span, shorter sessions, so forth. So then you need to be able to also make sure that those people keep coming back to the game. But it doesn't. I wouldn't say that it equals mobile equals shorter lifetime value and total lifetime than online or browser games. But you definitely need to make provisions to have extra attention on bringing those people back to the game intermittently.
Yeah, and I think maybe Karen can talk a little bit. We were talking in our discussions before about, and we've been talking about this on stage, but doing cohort analysis to actually figure these things out and looking at groups of users rather than just saying the lifetime value of any customer. I mean, I think maybe you guys can talk a little bit about this because that's part of the issue is that's changing over time, and you really need to be looking not at your entire ad portfolio and user portfolio, but very specific new groups as you interact with them and onboard them in different ways.
Yeah, I think it's really a game, not a game of just quantities, but what are the type of users that you bring and whether they bring value to you, and then you need to measure all of them. It's not just about spending endless money. Do it like Chris was saying. Test every case, see, and also try different networks and see which audience fits the best to your game. Because there's no right and wrong answer here. Might be that you thought initially that US is the key market for you, and then suddenly you realize that just doesn't work there, and then start with Europe. Less competitive, maybe makes more sense for you.
Another thing, so everybody's more or less saying the same thing, you should test, start small and test. But given that you already have an existing user database online, there might be an idea to start testing on those users as well. Because on that database, you already have some patterns and you understand their behavior. Pick a segment, think about what you're trying to achieve, and push the mobile games to them and see how they react. And at least you have a starting point. It's not going to be the most accurate data in the world, but you have a starting point, and with small tests that you do on new mobile users, you should be able to figure out where to go next.
All right, so anybody, oh, we got a question down here, okay.
Test. Hello, I'm Ivan Govic, Berlin Mini Jam. I was wondering if you have any insights to the relation of how big of an app, and specifically a game is, and how likely it is that it will be uninstalled, and also a relation between the loading time for the first startup and how likely it is that it will be the last startup.
Yeah, so this is pretty interesting. I mean, we talked about this a little bit in some of the other discussions, but do you guys have any hard data about, or intuitions about, the size of the app and the likelihood to download it? I mean, we all know bigger is worse, but is there a tipping point? And also about loading times, initial loading screens, especially with games. That's a big concern for a lot of the new 3D stuff they're doing on platforms. But yeah, do you guys have any hard data or intuition that you want to share with us?
I mean, I think for many territories, there is anything that puts friction or time delay between the user pressing something and getting a rewarding experience is obviously going to be is obviously going to have an effect on performance. So on the one hand, quicker payout for the user is obviously important. However, where I do see a very strong correlation is perhaps on a territory basis. So there are some territories where perhaps people don't have such easy access to Wi-Fi, or data is really, really expensive, where we've seen very, very strong correlations. I'm thinking specifically of China. Papaya, who I work for, is a Chinese company. We've taken a number of what I would call Western games over to China, and those which have been very, very, very large sometimes make it more interesting in terms of getting distribution. Data can be expensive. Not everybody has access to Wi-Fi, and therefore it can be keep it small and deliver levels in packs further down the experience is probably the best way forward. So it's more, for me, it's more my experience, a territory thing.
Yeah, but this is also then if you have a niche product, then like what are the expectations from the player? Like if I'm going to download a AAA massive multiplayer online strategy game, my expectation level is a bit different than if I'm downloading Tetris. So it's like I want to play Tetris now, but I can probably wait like 2.5 minutes to get my hands onto that thing that I really, really actually want because my friends play it too.
The thing is that the user not necessarily know when you promote in a mass channel, the user doesn't necessarily know that this is like a huge game, 3D, whatever, that's going to take time. And then if you promote it to the masses, then you're missing this chunk who is not focusing that it's a very big game, and then you're losing these guys. So like above 100 mega can be a problem in that side.
Yeah, we tested, and actually it's not even about 100 mega, anything over 30, 40, maximum 50 is an issue as well. But as Chris said, it really depends on the territory and how easy their access to the internet is and the downloading time.
So the important lesson here is that if you're making a 300 megabyte game, don't go cost per click.
Yeah, I mean, it seems really you have to manage expectations is a big point. I mean, if you're downloading a premier AAA amazing game, you're going to wait a little while longer, but that's a lot about the conversation that you're having, both through advertising and just your general marketing and positioning. What am I expecting, so how long am I willing to actually wait for it? But I think one of the things I wanted to sort of follow up on that I think we can get a little practical, so how do you guys actually do the regioning stuff? I mean, where are you looking for this data? Are you going on intuition? Are you doing marketing studies yourself? How do you actually break it down by country? Because as the surface I have, we've moved from different countries, and here in Germany, what we've seen on the ground is no one is installing anything even in less than 5 megs on, over their 3G. Just talking directly to users, they're like, I won't do it. So is there any good source for this data, or is it something that you have to go out and find yourself?
I think it's just a matter of testing. I mean, in our position, because we work with many different players, it's just a matter of testing and learning from their experience, and then learning from a similar experience that we had with other partners and trying to share the data with them. If somebody comes to you and says, I want to promote my game in China and it's 100 megabytes, you're going to say, I'm sorry, I cannot make it work. And it's a matter of managing their expectations as well.
Yeah, I also think you'd see very quickly on the CPI basis. If you're doing CPI, then you'll very quickly find your apps getting blocked by everybody because they know that they're not generating the revenue.
Nice. Okay, so do we have any other questions in the audience? I saw some more hands go. Oh, there we go, down here. Oh, wait, we're moving. All right, cool.
Hello, Andrea from Digital Surgeries. I would have a more meta question to the perspective on business intelligence, because what we learned now is that engagement is definitely the part where we should concentrate on, but we have also learned that there are many ways to engage with the user. If it is social media, if it is campaigns, if it is analytics, what we study. So, and what I see is more that you should then, of course, consolidate all this data, like you said, Johanna. And what is your perspective on where it's going? Do you know best practice versions, where you really analyze the data on a central place, on an consolidated? What is your perspective on that?
Yeah, so we have a lot of providers to choose from, right? We've seen up on the slides, all the breakdowns of who to pick. I mean, I have a feeling that the answer is going to be it's complicated. But I think that, really the question is how are we picking between the providers that we're using, and is there a good or best practice for centralizing that information? So we could see a lot of this, could get fragmented fast, and in order to have it all in one place, what do you guys recommend for making that decision?
Yeah, I can. Sorry, go on. I think the most important thing is to work out what to measure. So I think that's and only you can do that again because it's your own, because it's people's own titles. But what is it that is actually driving the revenue or the lifetime user value or whatever within your own app? So work out what 4 or 5 headline KPIs are, and then measure those. And to some extent, one can ignore many other things. However, I do think there is an opportunity to try and pull together all of these different analytics data into one dashboard at the moment. If I look at the number of dashboards that one has to check every morning just to get a picture of what's going on, it's a lot. So you're right, it is complicated. I think simplifying what one measures is a way around that at the moment, but I wouldn't be surprised if we were all using one particular dashboard in the way of Google Analytics for desktop in 3 or 4 years' time.
Yeah, so this is the difference between essentially metrics and analytics. So a lot of us are still staring at metrics, like these are my sessions, this is my DAU, this is the money that's coming in. But we're not really looking at the behavior patterns and really analyzing what's happening there behind the scenes and what in our app, what in the consumer behavior is driving that behavior.
Yeah, in terms of choosing the provider, because you've already covered the analytics part, I think it's just a matter of working with a partner that, first of all, gives you access to several types of traffic, so that you can test several different types of traffic, where you can measure, where you have constant feedback, and where you can also test and start small, where conditions to start spending $1 million for a test campaigns, they are not going to work necessarily. So you have to work with somebody that you can trust, that allows you to not necessarily take your time, but test at your own pace, and with whom you can share feedback that then is heard. It's common sense, but it's what works best at the end of the day.
I think one more angle to your question is actually where you do this engagement with your users. And since the app is a mobile app, from our experience, we see that the best is to engage through the app, not necessarily, on your Facebook page or on your Twitter. And once you do it on the app itself, so create, like a dialogue with your app, like a feedback form or any other form of engagement, and ask questions to your users, let them answer, then you can, collect all this information, you can analyze it, and it really helps you to improve your app and to create this dialogue with your users.
Yeah, I think the important thing is, I think what we're going to be hearing from this a lot is there is no magic silver bullet with your metrics or analytics saying, okay, here's what I should do. It's really about how you interpret them, and that's a huge, it's more than even gathering them. It's about how you make the decisions. And I think we have 2 really good recommendations going here. One is keep it simple, right? Reduce it down to a very few things, 5 KPIs that you can compare across all of these ad networks, across all of the strategies you're using to say, okay, if, because it's easy to say, well, this one gives me this and that one gives me that, but really trying to simplify is important, and also creating the feedback loop to have that dialogue with your user, because if you go in just gathering information and not thinking about how to respond, you kind of find yourself at a dead end immediately.
And again, establishing those challenge of being able to change things on the fly and on server side and so on, so that when you have your analytics and you're trying out different things, you don't have to issue a new game build every day. So basically you can change things server side and change different campaign parameters and try different user segments and different things with different user cohorts, and that's super important, and it's gonna save you a lot of work and trouble in the future.
So I think I saw another mic go out, yeah.
Hello. I'm Thibaut. I had a question regarding retargeting. The last presentation was about the possibilities we had at the moment. And my question is the following. How do you set up retargeting with dynamic creatives at the moment for app marketing?
Okay, do you want to elaborate a little bit more on that? I mean, I think, yeah.
Well, the same we have on desktop, we have cookies and I can send you the product.
Mm-hmm.
So the current solution, if I got it right, is to integrate the SDK of a network that will have all the IDFA data so that he can retarget. Is there a way to set a bridge between the tracking tool and the inventory of the network without integrating the network SDK?
Okay. Yeah, no, this is interesting. So we're getting pretty specific, but this, I mean, you're pointing out something that is very cutting edge stuff. I mean, this is coming out right now, and I should tap someone else. So I don't know if any of my panelists is an expert in this, but if not, I'll try to help field it. But the question is, okay, how do we, if we're doing retargeting, and I have my entire user database, and that can be sometimes quite large, right? How do I actually match that up with my ad network without installing huge SDKs? How do I actually start performing this, and potentially across ad networks? Facebook is beginning to offer it, but if I want to do that across Facebook, Google, and other, how do I manage and keep that under control?
Yeah, I think it's just a matter, like if you install a third-party solution, let's take As Offers as an example, and then we can set together what is your retargeting criteria. So let's say the user entered the game 3 times in the last week or the last month. So this third party can count it, can give a direction on that, and then we can work according to that. So it doesn't require an SDK specifically from the network, but if you have a third party that provides this data, then it can cross. So it's available.
Thank you very much for that. By the way, we're getting a little technical. So, do any of the other tables, over here has not been doing so great. I feel like you guys are silent. Maybe it's because we just all turn and sort of embrace you a little bit more. But here we go. We've got one down here. Thank you.
My name is Daria, I'm from Yandex. I just want to hear your opinion on the current key trends of mobile advertising. Like we've heard a lot about retargeting, like last year we talked about geolocation, video ads. So what do you think are other key trends right now?
So I'll make it even nerdier. So what's the coolest thing going on in mobile advertising right now for you guys?
I think some of the coolest stuff right now, I mean, it's always about like introducing new sort of surprising things. And I'm seeing like a couple of playables in mobile. So you get like an interstitial ad and you can actually play like a level of the game that is being advertised, which then takes you through. That's obviously like highly engaging, also like highly complicated. So you need like big volumes and you need like actual resources into creating those creatives there. But that's new, that's fresh. I like video as well a lot. So
yeah, we were talking a lot about the video that's going on, and especially I think a lot of the new trends that are coming up are specifically about the technological innovation that's happening. I mean, I wouldn't have imagined seeing interstitial video on my phone 2 years ago, right? So.
Yeah, I mean, I think I've got sort of an interesting one and a boring one. So if I start with the boring one, I think that we're beginning to see real transparency in the industry. We're beginning to see the lifting of black boxes in terms of the analytics. It's really quite dull, but it's fascinating in terms of how that tracks back to ROI. So I think for the first time, we are beginning to be able to see how we're spending money and what difference that's making to our bottom line, because at the end of the day, we are all here to make money. I think the next thing, which is much more cool and more fascinating, is seeing what effect the increase in the data pipes the mobile will have on the sort of creatives that we have. You mentioned video. 4G is obviously launching around the world. As 4G becomes the standard, the sort of stuff that one can have on a mobile is just going to be amazing. And you mentioned having video. You mentioned having playables. We haven't even begun to see where that's going to go. And I think that's just going to be gorgeous.
You can take it one step further and imagine what is going to happen when cross-device tracking kicks in.
Yeah.
And you're going to be able to follow the user with different creatives from one device to another to end the sales cycle.
Yeah, I mean, I think it almost becomes...
When that comes in, probably it's going to be just amazing, hopefully.
And scary, because then there's nowhere to hide.
I think that the values are more there, like in terms of advertising. Before, we used to use these banners and all. I think that the industry is going towards more like be more respectful to the users. Don't put things that will create accidental clicks, and then the advertiser will have to pay for that. Don't put ads that are intrusive to the user. Respect. Don't waste the you design a beautiful app and suddenly you have an ugly ad in there. So don't do that. So this is something it's important. Don't waste the inventory. Know exactly in which breakout sessions you're going to put the ad. Cap it so the user wants to see the same ad 7 times in 1 hour. So all these elements are really, really critical and becoming more and more popular.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, no, that's a very good point that you make, because everybody's talking about analytics and metrics and figures and numbers and formulas, but nobody's talking about the impact of the creatives and the call to action. We still see, I'm sorry I have to say that, lots of banners with download the free game now, which is very fine, and then only that all games are free and all the apps are free. So as a user, why would I download one game over another one if there is not a call to action with regard to something that is happening in-app, some in-app event? And it goes for everything. It goes for hotels, it goes for m-commerce, it goes for absolutely everything. Stop limiting yourself to the banner, you have to download the app. Talk about something that is happening in-app, and talk about something that the user is going to get only by downloading your app and not going online and not going to a website and not going somewhere else. And this, if we manage to preach enough about this to all the advertisers, I think the ROI and the formulas are going to become a lot clearer and the results are going to be much, much better.
Yeah, I think so. To wrap up, I think what we're really seeing here, especially from the first 2 sessions today, is that it's about quality, it's about creativity, and we're all talking about measuring, but unless you're putting significant value out there, there is so much competition. It's not a land grab anymore. It's creating quality dialogues with specific users to understand and really build not just a valuable product now, but a valuable onboarding experience from the first time they hear about you until they finally join your service. So I think we can all get talking together about what's going to be happening over some lunch and what the most creative things that we're all saying. So I just want to thank the panelists again, give them a big hand.